Welcome everyone to Aging in Action. And today we're very happy to have as our guest Garth Wunsch and his daughter, Jennifer Arnott. Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Welcome.
I'm particularly, I don't know if the other two are excited, but I am because I've got back into gardening. So our episode is going to be about horticulture, and you're very much into that, aren't you? Did your dad pass? Yeah. So your dad passed everything down to you, Jennifer?
Well, he certainly sparked an interest between him and my grandmother. They both had me with my own little garden plot when I was a young child, and got me into it. And I went away to university, lost a little bit of the interest, but then as soon as I finished off with university, the spark was there, and it eventually led me to having about 40 pots on my balcony when I was renting an apartment, and finally had to buy property so that I could have some land to garden in. And Dad graciously helped haul all the plants off of my balcony and into the new space. And it's 18 years later, here we are. I have a little forest outside, I think. And
that's
nothing
wonderful
compared to what my father has, but
yeah, well, and I have been following Garth for a while with his garden, and I'm very envious. I don't know if mine will ever achieve that, but he does a great job, that's for sure. And certainly gardening from just the whole COVID has been a huge factor, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
It sure has. Just if I didn't have my garden, I think my wife would be in worse shape. And I might be too.
Yeah, well, it's very important. I mean, it helps you mentally and physically, and yeah, for sure.
And I'm outside.
Yeah.
Jennifer, if I recall correctly, you actually have a blog where you do a lot of information. So can you tell a little bit of our listeners and viewers a little background about how you got involved and exactly how they can reach out and follow you if they should choose?
Sure. Well, because I like gardening, I always talk about gardening, and like my father, I'm pretty gregarious that way. And it just came to be that I was constantly getting asked questions about, what do I do with this plant, or how do I do this, or whatever. And so I finally thought, I think I'm going to develop a blog so I can share that knowledge with people, because there's obviously a need. I found most of the blogs are a lot of the ones that I was coming across. It was either really high level, very technical information, or it was somebody was trying to market at you with, buy this fertilizer or whatever. So I tried to create a blog that was for people who want a garden they can be proud of at whatever level they're at and whatever kind of garden they want. So the garden blog is called thefabulousgarden.com. And you can find it on, just type in Google, The Fabulous Garden, and it will pop up. And also it's on Instagram. And I try to post fairly regularly. COVID's kind of interfered with some of that, but different tips on how to do things with your garden. My father features every once in a while on some of the tips and helps me out with it, but it certainly has helped me learn a lot. And I think, we talk about COVID and all the things my father's been doing in his garden. Dad, you should probably tell them some of the innovations that you've done with your horticulture bed, and you've been digging out your COVID frustrations.
Yeah, I'm not sure how far anybody wants to go into these alternate kinds of gardening, but horticulture is very old gardening style. And Gwen, you in our time earlier, you were talking about watering your garden.
Yeah.
And in the horticulture bed, typically it's a hill structure. But what I did is I dug a 6-foot by 12-foot hole in the ground.
Wow.
And you fill that full of rotting wood. But
Okay.
bottom 6-8 inches with as rotten a wood as you can get and as much as you can tramp into it. Then the earth that I dug out, I put back in, and as that wood decays, it's a sponge, and it holds the moisture.
Wow.
And it's a very old gardening method, evolved in the middle, in Eastern Europe primarily. That's why it's a German name, Horticulture, a hill culture. Kugel. So that's one thing I'm doing, and that whole bed right now is dedicated to all of my cabbage family plants with a net over top to keep those little white cabbage moths out.
Oh, yeah.
So by putting the wood underneath, does that mean that you don't have to water your garden as much? Like, are you kind of creating, like with the tarp on top, more of a domed, where?
No, Lisette, it's not a tarp. It's a mesh, like a screen, a coarse screen. So the light and the water, the rain, everything goes through that, except I hope that the white caterpillars or white moths don't go through it. That's all. But yes, it does absorb and hold the rainwater as it goes down into there. And like I say, the water gets there, it's a sponge.
Oh.
And then the roots can get down and they'll seek the water. As long as your ground is soft, the roots will go and seek the water and they'll find it.
So Jennifer, I'm newly retired. You're at that stage of your career and you're kind of like, you know what, I'm going to get into this gardening, be your dad in the future. Where do I start? Like, how do you know what grows well locally for your own area organically? How do you know what plants work well together? I hear all these things about certain herbs should be planted with certain herbs, certain flowers. Like, how do you figure this stuff out? Like, where do you start? And then once you do, how do you maintain it?
Well, there's a lot of myths. A lot of people have their own systems, and the great thing is a lot of different things work. So, you could just keep experimenting and try. But I think a great way to learn and to start is to befriend someone like my father, who's got lots of experience, or someone at your local horticultural society. I know Sudbury Horticultural Society has quite a large membership, and they're very active. Or just walk around your neighborhood and see who's got a great garden, when you're going on your COVID walks or whatever, and who's got a good garden, and start talking to them. And that's going to help you figure out what's growing well in your area and what you might want to start with. And then, just read. And if you like to grow, you like the way zinnias look. Zinnias are nice. I grow orange zinnias. They're a nice flower. They're cheery. If you like to grow zinnias, well, then research how to grow a zinnia. Or if you like to eat tomatoes, and I don't know why you wouldn't like to eat tomatoes. It's a great vegetable to start with, and they're a ton of fun to grow. There's a whole bunch of resources. Everybody and their dog has a different way of growing tomatoes, different things you put in the hole or whatever. And again, there are a lot of myths and a little bit of plant voodoo sometimes with those, but talk to someone who's experienced, or look at a blog that's got good resources. And I like to think I managed to not get into the plant voodoo too much, and it's a science based, but just research. And again, I think one of the great things, Dad and I were talking about being on this broadcast, and about how gardening really is great for bridging intergenerational gaps. So when I first moved to this area, I joined a local horticultural society, and I was easily 20 years younger than everybody else there. But yeah. I learned a ton, and I have a garden mentor through there who was a professional gardener in Germany. So not only do I get the expertise of my father, who I saw gardening throughout his life, and he's taking courses now to even further his knowledge in some of the microbiology, which just blows my mind, because I'm not retired yet, so there's no time to research this. So I'm benefiting from the things he's teaching me, or at least he's confusing me with some of them. But it's a lifelong learning kind of thing, and a great opportunity to get to know your neighbors or other folks around to learn. And I say if you kill something, that's fine. Get rid of it quickly. That's what we do. Is there's no sense keeping something dead around. Once it's dead, it's dead. But realize that you're going to kill things. It's not you can't
resurrect it again.
It depends. If once it's gone, no. There's some things worth saving, but it's really disheartening, especially when you're starting out, if you have nothing but a bunch of dead plants around. So get rid of them and try again.
Well, like Garth and I were talking about the watering, like is that the biggest mistake people make? Overwater, underwater? Because I've killed lots of things over the years doing both.
It is a common mistake, and I think especially with houseplants, if they don't have drainage holes in the pots, or people think that, oh, I should water it once a week at this amount, and that's not how plants work. Are you thirsty at exactly the same time every day? Not usually. It's then your plants are the same. So, and again, when my dad and I were talking about what to talk about today, we were talking about watering and the heat, and how the two of us are always out watering. And the way to do it is to do it thoroughly and less frequently. So if you have like a hanging basket, you want to water it thoroughly so the water runs all the way out the bottom, like not just a little bit, and then leave it until it's dry again. And Dad taught me, stick your finger in, and that's how you can tell when it needs water again, or lift it up and see. And then collecting rain is another great resource. And maybe I'll pass it over to my father to talk about his rain barrels and that system.
Yeah, rainwater is really, really good for your garden. And as good as it is for your garden, tap water is equally bad, because tap water has chlorine and chloramine in it. Now, most people have to use it, but that's just the way life is. But if you have a choice, then I have the choice. So I have 1,000-liter cube of,
Wow.
what do you call it? Yeah, it's just a water cube out back, and I have an 1.5-inch pipe hooked up to it, and it's right in the garden. So right at the edge of the garden, you can't even see it because I've camouflaged it, just the pipe sticking out. And I save a lot of water there, but it's the quality of water that I get that's really good. And because I use so much mulch in my garden, I don't water very much at all. Like, the only thing I've watered this year so far is my carrot seedlings to get them to germinate.
And your pot.
And the pots, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, the pots, depending on when they get thirsty, not when I get thirsty, but if I'm finding it hot, they might be finding it hot and thirsty too. So I use that a lot. I'd just like to drop back. I think it was Gwen, you were talking about or Jennifer mentioned what plants go with what. One of the things that I discovered a long time ago, I used to have real trouble with carrots, and they had little wee white worms in them that they looked like the size of a carrot, the hair roots on the side of a carrot. You pull a carrot out of the ground and stare at it, and you'd see one of the roots come alive, and the worm would jump out of the carrot and back into the ground. So, don't ask me where I picked it up, or I put 2 and 2 together, and I started growing leeks. Onions probably work too, but I don't grow that many onions, but I grow a lot of leeks. And when I grow 3 rows of carrots, a row of leeks, 3 rows of carrots, a row of leeks, I might have lost 10 carrots in the last 10 years since I started doing that.
Interesting.
It's just a companion planting there. And don't ask me the chemistry or what's happening, but it works.
So what are some of the benefits to gardening and to, starting to work towards, I guess, that green thumb that so many have? But what are some of the benefits, especially for many of us that are maybe in isolation, who live alone? Maybe they have a balcony and, they're just going to start. What are some of the health benefits that somebody may want to look into?
Well, I like going to yoga, but with this and COVID and yoga being shut down, that's been my yoga mat. Bending, stretching, lifting, if you're active in your garden, regardless of the size of it, you can spend a lot of time there. And the smaller the garden is, the more you can baby it. And, my wife has 3 dozen African violets, and every week she spends quality time with the African violets, picking out and sitting and stretching and pulling, and it doesn't sound like much, but it's different than sitting just at the computer. And it's good for the mind as well. And I think your soul, your heart, whatever part you want to call that. But my gardening is all outside, and I'm carrying 40-pound pails of water, and not everybody's going to do that. I understand that, but even a watering jug is just keeps you busy. And that's a big benefit of it, is keeping you busy.
And it
And you're
gives you something to look forward to.
Yeah. Watching that little whatever seed grow and become something. Yeah, it's pretty therapeutic.
Even in the fall, we were looking forward to a really long COVID winter. I was like, oh my gosh. So what did I do? I ordered a whole bunch of bulbs, spring bulbs. I already have a collection. But it's like, get those in. So then every day I'm out there, it's like, what's coming up today? Is anything coming up? Please tell me there's something coming up today.
One of the things I wanted to ask about is composting. I started composting again, but I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just throwing whatever in there and hoping for the best next spring or whenever. Like, how many compost bins do you have?
I'll pass it over the compost expert.
My friend Dieter said he refers to me as the compost king. So
oh, good. You're the right one.
Right now I have 3 different composts on the go out in the back. But again, most people don't do that extensive of composting. But a lot of this is in conjunction with the online school that I'm enrolled in as well. So for the home, for you, Gwen, at home.
That's me. I'm the average gardener.
The average gardener. You know what I did for years and years and years, and I have no problem doing it again. I'm just doing something a little bit different right now. But if you get 4 pallets, shipping pallets, wire them together at the corners, and they make a great compost bin. So you just keep chucking everything in there, and you're probably going to have a hard time filling it, but you want to make sure that, so you want to get as much variety of stuff into that compost bin as you can. And in the fall, a lot of leaves can go into there. And the best thing to do with the leaves is to run over them with a lawnmower first. And that breaks them up, and there's lots of surfaces for the microbes to work on. Because what you're trying to do is make a good environment for the biology in the soil to have food. Just a little diversion, I guess, from that composting. But you can do composting sort of in the garden, right? Just by mulching is a composting method. My garden is totally covered in mulch almost all the time. And in 1 teaspoon of really healthy soil, there are more living organisms than there are people on the planet.
Wow.
And we don't think of that. Yesterday, 2 days ago, I farm in my workshop, worm bins, and I took a bit of soil out of there, and just 1 cubic centimeter. And then I diluted that, took 1 drop of that and put it onto the microscope slide because, I'm OCD. I have a microscope to look at my soil. And you wouldn't believe the variety of life in there. There's a nematode in there, and he eats the bacteria. And so just I'll try and say this really quickly because it's so interesting to me. The plant puts juices out of its roots that tells the bacteria and the fungi, I need selenium to be healthy today. And that's coded into the juice. The bacteria and the fungi go out into their little environment, harvest the selenium, and then this nematode comes along and eats the bacteria because once the bacteria has harvested the selenium, the plant can't use it yet. But the nematode comes along, or an amoeba comes along, eats the bacteria, and then when it poops out the bacteria after, and they eat, like one amoeba will eat something like 10,000 bacteria a day. I don't know who counted, not me.
This is mind-boggling.
It is. So once that nematode eats all these bacteria and poops it out, it is now changed chemically so that the plant can use it, and the roots take it up to feed the plants. So we feed our soil, not our plants. We have to feed these these little pets we keep in the ground, all these little, this little
that's
zoo
great.
that's down there. Yeah.
So I do have to ask a
Oh.
question, Jennifer, as you were talking about intergeneration and gardening. My granddaughter was here for a few weeks and I was deadheading some plants, and her dad has a beautiful green thumb kind of landscape. And she's like, Grandma, what are you doing? And I was putting them in a recycling bin. She goes, no, you leave those in the soil. The nutrients go back in. Now, is that true?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you don't
Okay,
want
so
to get rid of those things. You can put them in your compost bin if you don't want them being messy around on the top of your garden. But absolutely, you want to put those back in so that they can help feed the soil. And that's what my father has been really preaching about to me lately, is that leaving things right where they lay. Because
Yeah.
whatever plant that is, what is dropped is gonna help feed it going forward. And intergenerational learning, like Dad's taking this course and all this stuff about nematodes. This is what we text about, right?
Well, we're wrapping up very shortly
Yeah.
to this episode. Before we wrap up, is there any suggestions on techniques or best practices that we should be looking at, or anything you want to share before we end this episode today?
The safest or the best thing I think that a gardener can do, regardless of their age, is make your gardening easy. I have not dug or tilled my garden for over 10 years. And that's hard on you. Digging is hard. I found it really hard using a tiller. It was hard on my back, hard on my arms. It was hard on everything. And I haven't dug my garden. So all I do is I keep mulch on it. When I want to plant a seed in the spring, I just scratch take my little skinny hoe that I have and scratch a line where the bean seeds are going to go in, put the bean seeds in, cover it back up. It's done.
Wow.
I try to make it easy.
Well, thank you both very much, Garth and Jennifer, for joining us today. And I'm not Nikki. I forgot to put the timer on mute. Thank you both for joining us on this episode with Aging in Action. We will definitely share all your information, Jennifer, your website, with our Aging in Action social media, our website, and definitely thank you so much for sharing.
Wait, I had more questions.
You're going to have to send it to her on an email. Reach out on her blog. Go to her blog.
I will for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
everyone, for
Thanks,
joining
Garth.
me.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Bye.